On May 12, 2026, the literary journal Granta published a short story, The Serpent in the Grove, by Jamir Nazir, in partnership with the Commonwealth Foundation Short Story Prize. This prize is a big deal, it has lots of eyes on it, and as such, it didn't take long for people to start scrutinizing this short story. In no time, the AI accusations were flying. Unfortunately, this case is not entirely unique. As Alyssa Matesic said in her video covering the situation, the literary world has no idea what to do with the ever-growing flood of AI-generated literature. Just think back to the Shy Girl debacle. And in thinking about these situations, one thing is quite clear. There is a stigma against AI use in the writing world, as there ought to be. But while the idea of grifters trying to pass AI-generated content as original creative work is scary, there is another fear that consequently arises. Are writers going to have to field AI accusations forever? Will there be a constant need for authors to defend their work when they never touched an LLM or generative model in their entire process? Well, not necessarily. Odds are good that writers will always find solutions. We're creatives after all. But there's one excellent solution available to all of us right now: Ellipsus. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you probably already know what Ellipsus is, but I'll give you the quick rundown again. Ellipsus is an LGBTQ+ founded writing software made by writers for writers. Unlike other word processors in the modern day, there is no AI assistant, and Ellipsus does not use your data to train any AI model. Ellipsus cares about your privacy, and just as the second bullet point in the privacy policy states, they will never sell your personal information. Ellipsus is all about human-to-human connection. Microsoft and Google claim that your personal documents are not being used to train AI, and that very well may be true, but in the case of Microsoft at least, Word absolutely is analyzing your content in real time to provide quote-unquote assistance, including the AI assistant. And I don't think it should come as a shock for me to say that Google is absolutely exploiting our data. Now, I will say Ellipsus has commissioned me to make this video, but I wouldn't be making it if I didn't truly believe in their mission. So today I want to walk you through Ellipsus, tell you about some of its important pro features, and walk you through my writing process a little bit. So let's just start with this. Ellipsus's most basic features will always be free. You can always use Ellipsus as a place to write. There will never be AI involved in that process, and your privacy will stay protected. But I do want to talk about some of the new features as part of Ellipsus Plus. If you didn't know, Ellipsus has a huge community, primarily conglomerated in the Discord server. And so the community members actually put forth the ideas for Plus features that they wanted to see, and Ellipsus delivered. The one I'm most excited about, and the real centerpiece of this video, is the emboss feature. The word emboss in the traditional sense means to literally carve a design into something, and in text, we see letters and shapes raised on the page, no ink required. Obviously, there's no way to replicate that with AI, so I think that's the logic behind the name here. When you go to share a reader link to a document with Ellipsus Plus, you have the option to emboss it and share your writing journey and version history. You can see your writing journey metrics anytime you want, and you can choose to share those metrics with the audience as well. If we take a look at this document, for example, when I go into the version history, you can see I started working on this at 12:55 p.m. on June 10th, then stopped working on it at 3:12 p.m. And just look at all the versions of this document saved in that period of about 2 hours. If I wanted to, I could restore any of these previous versions as a separate draft. So if I decided I liked an earlier version of this document better, I could get it back, and all without sacrificing the draft as it already exists. I'm sure a lot of you watching this will already know this is common practice, but when you go to work on a new draft, always make a copy so you don't lose the previous draft. With Ellipsus, it's essentially making copies of your drafts all the time to track your progress. So, taking a look at this document again, you'll see 3 of my own original poems here. We'll read through them a little more later, but as you can see, I have 3 rough drafts here. If I go back into my version history and recover the draft from 1:58 p.m., you'll see 1.5 poems with the draft saved right as I was typing the word "the." And you'll notice that draft now exists under the drafts section of the document itself, so I can switch between them, referring to the draft while working on the up-to-date document. When we look at the reader view of the document, you can see that I enabled the emboss feature so my readers can see exactly the writing journey I took. If you'll notice, the actual amount of time spent putting words on the page was only 8 minutes. A 2-hour writing session and only 8 minutes of actual writing time. If you're a poet, I'm sure you'll get it. If we look under the cadence section, we'll see that I allegedly took 69 pauses throughout writing. Nice. And under the editing section, you'll see I made 139 edits in this 478 word document, making my word to edit ratio 3.4. And that makes sense. If you've followed me for a long time, you'll know that I think the art of poetry is one that's very precise, so of course I aim for precision even in my rough drafts, and that inevitably means a lot of editing as I go. You'll lastly see that I didn't paste anything into this document, I wrote it all out myself. We can compare this to a script I wrote for an upcoming video that's a whopping 9,055 words long. I spent an hour and 33 minutes of putting words to the page across 8 different writing sessions over 2 days. You'll notice, though, that almost half the document was pasted, the pasted portions being the poems I organized into a separate document beforehand. Throughout this document, I made 178 pauses and 506 total edits. My word-to-edit ratio was 17.9 in this case, which makes total sense to me. Of course, it would be higher for a script than it would be for a few poems, especially on a first draft. Another element behind the word emboss is the idea of the hand of the author. We can see the visible human labor put into our projects and the human choices made every step of the way, as opposed to AI verifiers that are imposed upon writers in other pieces of software. And ultimately, every writer on Ellipsus gets to choose if they share these metrics with their readers. Now, the other plus feature I really want to talk about is the Writing Insights feature. With no AI whatsoever, Ellipsus can lay out quirks of your writing like your vocabulary diversity, sentence length, rhythm, paragraph density, and more. The vocabulary diversity is especially helpful for me because one of my biggest weaknesses as a writer is the unintentional repetition of words, even in close proximity. Ellipsus can take all of these insights and give your writing an overall complexity rating. I think oftentimes we're so close to our own writing that we can't see our own worst habits. And obviously the best thing for that is to have someone else read your writing, and we'll get into that soon enough. But these writing insights are great for learning about your own habits while also keeping known habits in check. If we look back at my document of poems, we can see that I used 477 words total and 298 unique words among them, which I think is a decent ratio for poetry, especially poetry that doesn't intend to use repetition as a device. In looking at the word frequency, the most used word is headspace, and you'll see why that's the case soon enough. After that, the most used word is thoughts, followed by old, storage, and lip, and once again you'll see the drive behind those choices. The adverb checker is also very helpful because we can often unknowingly use way too many adverbs, the majority of which are redundant. In the case of these 3 poems, I only used one adverb, which was flavorfully, which is rather unique. So without any more delay, let's actually take a look at these poems, as well as the comments a few of my friends left on them. And keep in mind, these are still rough drafts. The things in caves behind waterfalls. A colony of bunnies. The hairbrush you lost when you were 5. A treasure chest filled with clanking magnets. Crows who steal underwear from open-windowed bedrooms. The skeleton of a unicorn. A portal to a world where people bake bread into prisms. 100 loaves of prism-shaped bread. A guy with an eye patch and a marimba. A woman with a watermelon and a big hammer. The bed where Jesus once slept. Boxes full of your great-aunt's old dresses. Every piece of mail that was ever lost en route. A precious jewel that nobody knows the name of anymore. A leprechaun named Earl. The key to defeating the ultimate evil. Some uncle's old Nintendo collection. Recipe cards on which you think you recognize the handwriting. Wagon loads of metal tablets with ancient languages scratched on. A sword, a golden spindle, and a book. Writing on the walls, the lists of things you want to say, but cannot. So with Ellipsus's anti-AI pro-human stance, the emphasis on collaboration is huge, and the method of collaboration and critique here is pretty neat. As you can see, my friends created separate drafts of my work to comment on. They could have also edited these drafts if they wanted to, and I could have merged those changes with my original document, but they only ended up leaving comments, which is totally fine. My friend KR Rose left 10 comments on this piece, and I'll show you some of the most pertinent ones. Regarding the title, Rose suggested I drop the article, but more importantly also suggested the title could be a place to more deeply develop the theme or the you featured in the poem. That was one of my major thoughts too, not specifically about the title, just in general. I feel the poem does need more development of the you, maybe some more specific details like the one in the second line. Rose also left a comment on the 5th line, the skeleton of a unicorn, suggesting that should be the first line, which I think I also agree with. She also suggested I remove the enjambment going from the 6th to the 7th line, since the only other enjambment comes in at the ending's dramatic turn. And speaking of that ending, Rose found it to be effectively jarring and heartbreaking, and while I don't want to toot my own horn, I do think I agree. But at the same time, I'm not actually sure if the poem should take that turn, or if it should remain more whimsical and upbeat, or perhaps just more subtly heartbreaking rather than slapping the reader in the face with it. My friend Kip admitted that the ending left him kind of confused, so perhaps something does need to change about it, and I just won't know exactly what until I find it. As for this next poem, it needs a lot of structural work, especially in the rhythm, but here it is. Headspace, TM. Do your thoughts ever wish they had another place? Does your imagination want out of this rat race? Do your occurrences grow tired of your own face? Then what you need to do is rent out some headspace. The skull market's in shambles. Oh, where are the brains to stay? Pack your thoughts and send them on a little getaway. A thinking storage unit along your neighbor's headway. Not like they're using it, so give us a call today. All that thinking's too much work. Unpack it for some fees. Regrets, anger, sadness, doubt, and insecurities. Take the negativity and ship it off with ease. We'll have it boxed up and sent straight to your enemies. Why wait? Everyone agrees. The only thing better than an empty head would be our guarantees. Headspace TM's privacy policy states that any thoughts shared with Headspace for the purpose of shipment, offloading, and storage belong to Headspace and can be used for whatever means corporate deems necessary, including the sale of personal information, targeted advertising, and surveillance pricing. Just as well, any thoughts put into Headspace storage are available for the company to use for the betterment of the corporation itself and for the oligarchy at large. Speaking of structural notes, Rose's first comment on this piece was to lean more into the ad copy format and use bolding and potentially other font choices. I think the poem could also benefit from even more language associated with advertisements. Rose also noted that the poem began to lose steam by the third stanza, but by the end of that stanza there was something that reinvigorated it. The idea that Headspace can send bad thoughts to people of your choosing. However, that kind of creates more questions, and Rose put forward that the poem could use even more world-building, and I'm inclined to agree. Along those lines, another of Rose's comments said the fine print section of this poem could actually be a separate companion poem unto itself. Anyhow, let's get into the last poem of this batch, which I personally think is the strongest of the bunch as of right now. A Touch of Lip Balm. I pulled my lip balms from my drawer, the old stuff I don't use no more, to test if they had any juice. I yanked their caps and turned them loose. I gave them each a little test. My lips were flavorfully dressed, in apple, orange, and cherry pie, and then in chocolate from Dubai. Banana, berries, beans, and toast, arroz con pollo, turkey roast, masala, curry, prime French dips, a full buffet there on my lips. 100 flavors in a whirl. So when I went to kiss my girl, with all the lip balms on my face, the power launched her into space. Rose's comments here didn't have as much to do with the fundamentals of the poem, but instead smaller stuff, like for example the double use of the word test in close proximity. You see what I mean? I do this all the time, even more so in prose than in poetry. But anyhow, even though this might be the strongest of the poems in this bunch, that's not to say that I might not take another crack at it in a second draft. I might uncover some more lines and rhymes that I like even better, elements that could be even stronger than what I've got right now. Under the reader view of my work, my friend Ravi wrote, "Okay, I don't really like the first one, but I think that's a me thing. I don't really like poems that are just lists of things. They seem cheap to me. The second one is gold. You have the whole plot of an entire novel or science fiction movie in that one, and I hate how much it sounds like something they'd actually do. It makes me cringe, it makes me nervous. I believe that's the point. The last one is really good as well, as someone who actually does own 1,000 lip glosses. I'm obsessed with them. It's really cute and funny. I love it." The other major plus feature as of right now is the ability to customize your workspace however you like. Even with Ellipsus's free version, you can still pick from the themes they have pre-made, but with Plus you can mix and match as you like. Another Ellipsus feature I haven't even mentioned, available in the free version, is the templates. If you're a prose writer, particularly a fantasy writer, these templates are super helpful. There's a template for AU planning, for canon divergence, for character arc planning, and so much more. If you do TTRPG, there's a world building and lore template for that too. Ellipsus is always free to use, but if you do want Ellipsus Plus, there are 3 ways to buy it. For one payment of $99, for 2 yearly payments of $60, or for $6 a month over 24 months. No matter how you choose to pay for it, you will eventually own Ellipsus Plus rather than being locked into a payment forever. There will be a lot of new features incoming to Ellipsus and to Ellipsus Plus, so there's no better time to get on board than right now. You can use my link down below to get started with Ellipsus today. You can start a 7-day free trial of Plus at any time without having to hand over any financial information. There will be more Plus features in store in the future, but even if you don't want to use Plus, you should absolutely get on board with the free version. Check out the Discord where you can find other Ellipsus users with whom you can collaborate. Even if you don't find someone to comment on your work, it's always good to have an accountability partner, someone with whom you can write at the same time. That way, you're sure to get something done. In any case, let me know what you think of Ellipsus in those comments down below. And, if not Ellipsus, what did you think of the poems presented here? Please, tell me everything. Hey, I've got merch now. Buying some is a great way to support the channel and get something in return. As always, I want to take this time to give a huge thanks to my patrons. They help to keep this operation running, and I truly can't thank them enough. You're seeing their names on screen right now. If you'd like to be added to this list of lovely people, you can consider donating to me on Patreon too. For just $3 a month, you can see videos early, hear about the books I'm reading each month, and join the community Discord. We do prompts in there and talk about books and YouTube. It's a good time. To support the channel in important non-monetary ways, doing all the algorithm stuff really does help a lot. Liking, commenting, subscribing, hyping, sharing, trying on all flavors of lip balm, that sort of thing. You can follow me on my socials if you want, but no matter what, keep reading, keep writing, and ultimately keep in mind, this is a rough draft. And for sticking around till the end of the video, here's a writing prompt for you. This prompt actually comes from Ellipsus's character emotional wound template. Today I want you to write a piece about an emotional scar. It could be one of your own, or it could be an invented one. Regardless, the main character of your piece, what is their biggest unresolved emotional wound? How do they deal with it? What are some of their unhealthy coping habits? What's something that stems from their trauma without the character even realizing it? And what if they were forced to confront it directly? The time is yours now. Get to writing.